Welcome everybody, it's Salmon. In this video, I'm going to be reading off for you guys the entire original timeline for Treyarch Zombies inside this video. And this is actually pretty darn interesting because not only is it a really cool refresher for people who already knew the story, but it also answers a lot of questions that we had, which makes it so cool. But also it is really cool, especially for people who didn't actually experience the story from when it all happened. So it is really cool for everybody just to have a really good understanding of the storyline. I know it is a long read, and that's why instead of reading it, I'm just going to read it off for you guys to listen to it instead of having to read through the whole thing yourself. So I thought I'd make it easier for everybody, but I do want to make videos reading off the other three timelines, but it really matters how this video does, because if this video doesn't do well, then it doesn't really make that much sense to release the videos talking about the other timelines, because they're most likely not going to do well either, especially because this video took so long to make and I really could be making other videos with that time instead of focusing so much on this. But if you do want to see the other ones, I highly recommend sharing this video just for you could get it out there and for I can make the next ones after this. But anyways, with that out of the way, let's get into reading this. In the beginning, there was only the Ether and the Keepers, among them two beings who would later be known by many names. One be known as Dr. Monty, the other known as the Shadowman. September 3rd, 5 AD. Knowing the planet had a gateway to Argartha, the Apothicans sent meteors of element 115 to Earth. They believed humanity would one day use the element to wage war amongst themselves, opening the rift that would allow the Apothicans to escape the Dark Ether. January 15, 1292. The Great War between humanity and the Apothicans begins. April 14th, 1294. Sir Pablo Marinus is saved from the clutches of Amargua by four unknown heroes. They would later be known as Primus. December 31st, 1299. Together with the Keepers, Primus defeated the Apothicans, bringing the Great War to an end. January 1st, 1300. Before they seemingly disappeared from history, Primus instructed the Wolf King to begin building the Reisedrache. September 19th, 1318. Honoring the Wolf King's dying request, his loyal servant Arthur scatters and buries his bones in the grounds of Reisedrache, accompanied by the King's Wolf. September 12th, 1318. Temporal Rift teleport Arthur to resolutions 1295 and 2025, Angola. June 30th, 1908. A meteor containing element 115 crashes near the stony Tunguska River. August 30th, 1925. Dr. Edward Richtofen joins the Illuminati. February 4th, 1931. Large deposits of element 115 are discovered near Breslau, Germany. Dr. Ludwig Maxis, a German scientist, is sent to investigate. May 10th, 1931. Maxis forms Group 935, an international organization dedicated to the study of element 115. Maxis tells the scientists they represent the future of technological advancement, and they will be pioneers of human discovery. The group swears to work in secrecy from their respective governments. As Maxis says, "We cannot afford to let power fall into the wrong hands." November 5th, 1934. Samantha Maxis is born. Her mother dies in childbirth. August 11th, 1936. Maxis invites Richtofen to join Group 935. He agrees, secretly acting on the behalf of the Illuminati's interests. April 10th, 1937. The Imperial Japanese Army discovers element 115 meteor fragments in a swamp within the Japanese territory. They build the Rising Sun facility to continue research. Division 9 is created to oversee the operation. June 14th, 1937. The United States government discovers deposits of element 115 at Groom Lake. July 2nd, 1939. Maxis and Richtofen begin teleportation experiments with the matter transference prototype to mild success. The subjects are teleported, but their chemical composition is altered, leaving them catatonic and changed. August 5th, 1939. Using element 115, Maxis and Richtofen resurrect one of the teleported corpses for the first time. It obeys, but soon becomes rabid and attacks them. The subject is euthanized. September 3rd, 1939. Richtofen begins development of the Wonder Waffle DG2. November 23rd, 1939. Maxis turns to the Reichstag for additional funding. Germany agrees to the request, expressing interest in their weapon research, teleportation technology, and the reanimated undead subjects. December 4th, 1939. During test trial 131, Richtofen and Dr. Schutzker successfully teleport a walnut. This is the first successful test where the chemical composition of the object is maintained throughout the process. December 5th, 1939. Edward's walnut delivery fails to impress Maxis, who declares it a waste of time, and reveals to Richtofen that Group 935 will soon be funded by the Germans. Richtofen worries that this will lead to massive defections. He and Dr. Schutzker decide to continue their teleportation experiments behind Max's back. January 4th, 1940. Richtofen and Dr. Schutzker conduct their first human teleportation test. Richtofen is so confident in its success, he volunteers himself. Teleported to the moon, he encounters an MPD, the ether pyramid hidden by the Apothekins. While inspecting the device, Richtofen is electrocuted and begins to hear many voices of corruption, including that of the Shadowman. The device then teleports him to Shangri-La. Corrupted by the dark ether, Richtofen is gradually being driven insane by an obsession to find Agartha. January 5th, 1940. Richtofen is worshipped by the natives of Shangri-La. An altar is built in his name. Richtofen encounters the focusing stone for the first time. January 23rd, 1940. After a near month's absence, Richtofen returns to Schutzker with a plan to build Griffin Station. January 24th, 1940. Richtofen renounces his involvement with the Illuminati. When asked how he could abandon his obligations to the Order, he says, Teddy was a liar. March 13th, 1940. Construction of Griffin Station on the moon begins. Frustrated with Max's alignment with Germany, other Group 935 scientists join the cause. July 13th, 1940. Maxis instructs his assistant Sophia to write a letter to the Reichstag High Command requesting additional funds, though he reports that massive production will soon be underway shortly. The reason it lacks not only the funding, but sufficient volumes of Element 115. August 1st, 1940. In response to Max's request, Germany creates two new facilities for Group 935. They are the Kino facility, a repurposed theater, and the Asylum facility at Weinherz Sanatorium in Berlin. August 18th, 1940. As pre-Germany's request, the Japanese Imperial Army hands over the Rising Sun facility to Group 935. Division 9 remains involved on the site. October 3rd, 1940. Group 935 establishes a research facility in Siberia near the Tunguska River. November 6th, 1940. Group 935 establishes a research facility at the Reisedrache. June 24th, 1941. Nikolai Belensky's wife is killed during the German advance into Soviet Union. In the effort to numb the pain, Nikolai increasingly turns to vodka. January 11th, 1942. Maxis gives Fluffy to Samantha. The dog is expecting a litter. January 12th, 1942. Maxis tests the first file for storage on the data servant. January 26th, 1942. On the data servant, Maxis catalogs locations with prominent Element 115 deposits. He includes information about its various applications and cites that the reanimation of dead cells is a possible side effect. January 30th, 1942. Richtofen completes the Wonder Waffle DG2 prototype. February 1st, 1942. With Griffin Station completed, Richtofen names Groff the lead scientist and returns to Earth to continue the charade with Maxis. Working alongside with Schutzker, Groff is left to discover how to power the MPD. February 2nd, 1942. In a speech to his staff, Groff optimistically about Griffin Station's establishment as its permanent base of operations. April 7th, 1942. Maxis develops a ray gun prototype at the Rising Sun facility. H. Porter works on developing the second generation of this model. June 13, 1942. As a result of temporal rifts in 1963 Kino, Monty reaches across time and offers little nudges. One nudge is developing Group 935's Element 115 fused elixirs. They created 4 medical beverages known as Juggernaut, Quick Revive, Speedy Cola, and Double Tap. June 28, 1942. Group 935 continues development of a weapon upgrade machine. July 18, 1942. Groff and Schutzker unwittingly discover how to charge an MPD. When Schutzker kills a rat near the device, Unexplicable begins to fill the tank, charging the device. They report their findings to Richtofen. July 20th, 1942. Richtofen begins to send soldiers and scientists to the moon to be sacrificed. Their soul is used to charge the MPD. November 5th, 1942. Takeo Misaki is dispatched by the Emperor to oversee the work of Group 935 and Division 9 at the Rising Sun facility. December 8, 1942. Richtofen shares Element 115 based elixir recipes with Griffin Station. They develop Meal Kick. December 9, 1942. Nikolai's brother is killed in the Battle of Stalingrad. December 14, 1942. Richtofen creates a monkey bomb. December 16, 1942. In a personal log, Maxis expressed concerns over the Element 115's impact on Richtofen's behavior. No longer trusting him, he wonders if it was a mistake to invite him to Group 935. December 20th, 1942. Accompanied by Sophia, Maxis is transferred to the Kino facility to focus on creating Germany's undead army. Samantha is left in Richtofen's care. January 8th, 1943. Maxis worries he and Sophia have grown too close. He considers sending her away. January 16th, 1943. Nikolai is captured by German forces during the Battle of Stalingrad. He becomes a subject in Group 935 experiments. January 27th, 1943. Maxis reports success with Subject 26, whose violent outbursts have been greatly reduced. Maxis believes this method of treatment will be 100% effective in most cases. February 2nd, 1943. The Battle of Stalingrad ends. February 10th, 1943, Maxis reports the treatment has been perfected. He believes if Subject 26 impressions longer than 26 hours, then the delivery of a zombie army can be accelerated. February 12th, 1943, after attacking a handler, Subject 26 is killed and deemed another setback. May 18th, 1943, Harvey Yenna begins work with Group 935. June 4th, 1943, Primus arrives from Dimension 43 in an effort to prevent the events that are about to unfold. They formulate a plan to stop this dimension's Richtofen. June 11th, 1943, Richtofen is contacted from the House of Maxis, who warns that the test subject must never be allowed to be awakened. The havoc that could be wreaked upon the future by such a simple-minded individual would be catastrophic. June 13th, 1943, Takio reports to the Emperor that the work being done at the Rising Sun facility is unacceptable. July 19th, 1943, Primus Richtofen is teleported to the house in Argartha, reuniting him with Maxis. July 24th, 1943. On the order of the Emperor, Takio was taken prisoner by Group 935 and Division 9. He is used as a test subject for experiments. July 14th, 1944. After the setbacks with Subject 26, Maxis reports new success with the undead army. However, he maintains a belief that the undead cannot be controlled or maintained. September 2nd, 1944. Pablo Marinas, a Mexican spy, is captured by Group 935 at the Reisedrache. May 9th, 1945. In his cell, Pablo writes of visions of a great war. He describes a great battle against a strange demon-like character who were trying to devour the earth. In the vision, he sees 4 knights protect him from certain death. He makes note that the knights wore tunics similar to those in the Reisedrache. June 4th, 1945. An Allied plane malfunctions over an airfield and crashes. German trucks transporting the undead and Element 115 between Group 935 to facilities are struck in the crash. The Marines surviving the crash hold out against the undead as long as they can. June 17th, 1945. Peter McCain infiltrates Group 935 at the Riese. June 29th, 1945. Groff and Schutzker develop the wave gun. July 15, 1945, Richtofen travels to the Siberian facility to do further research on live specimens. As her temporary guardian, he takes Samantha with him. Group 935 begins transferring 3 test subjects for experimentation: Nikolai, Pablo, and Takio. July 29, 1945, while Richtofen works at the Siberian facility, Group 935 begins the development of Deadshot Daiquiri. August 1st, 1945, the test subject arrives at the Siberian facility for Richtofen's experiments. August 31st, 1945. CIA handler Cornelius Perndell confirms that Peter McCain has successfully infiltrated 935 and has been transferred to the asylum facility. Cornelius suspects that 935 is losing control of their experiments and has sent a Marine Recon unit to extract McCain. Tank Dempsey is to lead the squad. September 1st, 1945. Peter is outed as a spy and captured by Group 935. September 2nd, 1945. Richtofen reports Pablo has died following the spleen removal. He reveals that he's been performing experiments on Samantha. September 2nd, 1943. World War II ends. Group 935 continues their research. September 2nd, 1945. Temporal rifts begin to affect the asylum facility. An orderly report increasingly problems with the test subjects. Many in the facility have begun hearing voices coming from the walls, including a sobbing boy and a girl screaming, and a man shouting for the children to close the windows. September 3rd, 1945. An outbreak occurs at the asylum facility. Peter McCain escapes. September 6th, 1945. Dempsey, John Banana, Smokey, and the 4th Marine arrive at the asylum facility to find it overrun by zombies. They fight off the hordes as long as they can. Dempsey is apprehended by Group 935. September 6, 1945. John Banana writes a message and records his last words while being eaten alive by the undead Smokey. September 10, 1945. Richtofen reports another spy has been captured and will be brought to replace the Mexican. The subject is Dempsey. September 13, 1945. Cornelius Purnell attempts to send a transmission to Peter McCain telling him to rendezvous at the Rising Sun facility. September 17, 1945, Dempsey arrives at the Siberian facility. September 12, 1945, Richtofen documents the personal traits of his test subjects. Dempsey's intellect is low, but his will is strong. Takeo is still staring at the floor, muttering what sounds like some kind of proverb over and over again. Nikolai has begun to respond to the stimuli, but only after injections of a new serum made primarily from vodka. Richtofen notes that their minds have almost been entirely broken, with no memory remaining of who they once were. September 24th, 1945, Maxis returns to Drizzt. He orders Richtofen to do likewise so they may continue the work on the matter transfer device. September 27th, 1945, Richtofen returns to Drizzt with Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takeo and Samantha. October 1st, 1945, Maxis reports on Richtofen's finding with his test subjects. Nothing while their baseline psyche remained intact. All the specific memories have been lost. October 1st, 1945, infuriated to learn that Maxis has not been mass-producing the DG2 as he swore he would, Richtofen reveals his plot to destroy Maxis, vowing that he will no longer continue to work on his dead army. October 8th, 1945, Groff reports to Richtofen the MPD is nearly ready. October 12th, 1945, Groff radios Richtofen to inform him that the device has been powered up and is awaiting his conduct. Richtofen says he will proceed with Operation Shield and depose of Maxis and Samantha. October 13th, 1945, though frustrated that the matter transference tests have been largely unsuccessful, Maxis acknowledges that the test subject departure from the original point is undeniable. However, Richtofen suggests that the test subject has been transported not through space, but through time itself. But it causes Maxis to worry if his irrationality may prove to be a liability to our endeavors. October 13th, 1945, Maxis and Richtofen perform teleportation tests on the test subjects numbers 3, 4, and 5. All fail, including test 5, where Maxis uses Fluffy. Fluffy, now changed, is teleported back into the chamber. Samantha sees Fluffy and runs into the teleporter. Maxis chases after her. Richtofen seals them both in the test chamber and teleports all three of them. October 13th, 1945, Samantha is teleported to the moon while Groff and Schutzker are working on the MPD. Running into the MPD, she's drawn inside of it, where she becomes corrupted by the dark ether. October 13th, 1945, Maxis is teleported to the crazy place and develops the power to merge with electricity. October 13th, 1945, Richtofen returns to the moon. Learning that Samantha is trapped in the MPD, he orders Groff to teleport Maxis there so he could get her out of the device. He also warns Groff to keep an eye out for an evil-looking dog. October 13th, 1945, in an effort to free Samantha, Maxis approaches MPD and persuades her to come out. Once she does, Maxis gives instructions: kill them all. And Maxis kills himself and merges with the technology of Griffin Station, while Samantha unleashes the undead upon the base. October 14th, 1945, H-Porter activates the alarm as an outbreak occurs in Drizzt. Before taking the cyanide capsule, he says he's all out of hope. God forgive us all. October 14th, 1945, Richtofen returns to Drizzt and awakens Dempsey, Takeo, and Nikolai. With no recollection of who they are or who Richtofen is, they agree to help him. The four would become known as the Ultimas. October 18th, 1945, Peter McCain parachutes over the Rising Sun facility. He dies shortly after. October 21st, 1945. Ultimas travel to the Rising Sun facility to recover Richtofen's diary. Upon reading it, Richtofen begins to form a plan to defeat Samantha. October 28, 1945, Ultimas return to Drizzt. With his diary, Richtofen plans to use a teleporter to return to the moon and confront Samantha. Unfortunately, the Wonder Waffle overloads the teleporter and sends him through time, causing Richtofen to drop his diary. November 5th, 1945, Group 935 is disbanded. January 19th, 1946, the United States and the Soviet Union share resources recovered from Group 935's various research stations. Richtofen's diary is among the items recovered by the Soviet Union. January 27, 1946, the Pentagon hires former Group 935 scientists in an effort to replicate their work. January 29, 1946, as with their US counterparts, the Soviets hire many former Group 935 scientists. Among them are Harvey Yena, who forms the Ascension Group. July 19, 1952, the Pentagon begins experiments involving their own versions of the undead. May 12, 1955, the US government transfers a number of Element 115 experiments to the Groom Lake facility. October 19, 1955, Gersh and Yuri Solodowski began working for the Ascension Group. April 23, 1956, explorers Brock and Gary discover Shangri-La. During the eclipse, they are unwittingly trapped in a time loop. Sally, sent back from 2011, is trapped in the same loop. Ultimus arrive in Shangri-La. With the help of Brock and Gary, they acquire the focusing stone. June 3rd, 1959. The Pentagon constructs their own prototype teleporters and commences experiments. March 13, 1962. Studying Group 935's medical elixirs research, the Ascension groups develops PHE Flopper and Stamina. November 11, 1962. Gersh begins working on Project Thunder. December 12, 1962. Gersh and Yuri began to work on the Gersh device, codenamed Project Mercury. June 15, 1963. The Pentagon begins to develop their own version of the Wonder Waffle DG2. August 17, 1963. The Pentagon begins to develop their own version of the Winter's Howl. October 28, 1963. From Deriza, Ultimas teleport to Kino. This marks the first time the Ultimas travel across space and time. Temporal rifts occurred across dimensions. In light of these developments, Monty feels obligated to step in and begins to make changes in the background across time. He helps Group 935 invent perk machines. He adds chalk drawings to the walls. Little nudges. Ultimus locates a lunar lander and fly to the Ascension facility. October 29, 1963. Gersh informs that senior staff Yuri has been removed from Project Mercury and had been transferred to the rocket research. October 29, 1963. Yuri begins to notice the appearance of children's toys around the facility. November 1st, 1963. Upon reading Richtofen's diary, Yuri began to hear Samantha's voice. Over several days, her voice consumes him, driving him into the brink of insanity. She orders him to resume work on the Gersh device. He obeys. November 4th, 1963. Gersh announces to the committee that the new Project Thunder is nearing completion. Gersh reveals that Yuri may need to be removed from Ascension entirely, having observed that he has been hostile towards other scientists and frequently observed muttering to himself. November 5th, 1963. Obeying Samantha's wishes, Yuri tricks Gersh into activating the Gersh device. The rift is created, absorbing him and allows Samantha to travel through. Yuri is also absorbed and transported to the Pentagon. November 6, 1963. Ultimas arrive at the Soviet Union Cosmodrome and free Gersh from the Casimir mechanism. Richtofen recovers his diary and learns that they need the Vril device from the Siberian facility from his plan. Maintaining his ethereal form, Gersh sends him into a rift to their next destination before beginning his travels across space and time. November 6, 1963. In the Pentagon, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Robert McNamara, and Fidel Castro, in the aftermath of the Cuban Missile Crisis, due to the events at the Cosmodrome, a quick zombie outbreak occurs. Samantha sends Yuri to the Pentagon to help with their survival. After Gersh is free, the Ultimas depart from the Cosmodrome. The outbreak ends at the Pentagon. All four survive. November 19, 1963. In an effort to avoid another undead outbreak, the US government creates a Broken Arrow program, establishing several facilities across the country. The Groom Lake program is folded into Broken Arrow. August 11, 1973. Broken Arrow recovers a shard of element 115 from Division 9. September 29, 1979. Russman begins his work at Broken Arrow. Over the course of his employment, his exposure to element 115s leads to significant memory loss. April 20th, 1983. Broken Arrow begins live animal experiments with the shard, creating the BIOS. June 24th, 1986. The containment is breached involving the BIOS. Occurs at one of the Broken Arrow facilities. Russman is one of the few that escape alive. The facility is shut down and abandoned. The projects are transferred to another location. June 24th, 1996. Victus arrive at the abandoned Broken Arrow facility, still being pursued by the undead Richtofen. They recover the element 115 shard and depart through the rift. March 17, 2011. After entering the rift, Ultimas arrive at the Siberian facility in 2011, where they find themselves trapped in a closet while George A. Romero films his latest project at the location. Samantha, in her pursuit of the Ultimas, unleashes an undead outbreak. The film starts a fight against the undead horde, ultimately recovering the Vril device for Richtofen. Ultimas teleport back to Shangri-La in an effort to acquire the next artifact required to defeat Samantha, the Focusing Stone. April 11, 2011. Following the disappearance of the Call of the Dead cast, Romero's assistant Sally begins to search for her boss. Her journey leads to Shangri-La during the eclipse where she's sent back in time to April 23, 1956. April 10th, 2025, Broken Arrow creates Denizens. July 11th, 2025, Broken Arrow accidentally creates Elvagatro. September 1st, 2025, in the desperate need of more element 115, Broken Arrow uses an excavator drill near the nuclear testing facility known as Nuketown. October 13th, 2020, using the Vril device and the Focusing Stone, Richtofen completes his grand scheme and swaps bodies with Samantha on Moon, giving him full control over the zombies zombies and the ether. Maxis contacts the remaining members of the Ultimas through the station's electronics and asks for the help to defeat Richtofen. They agree. They launch missiles at the Earth, leaving it fractured and broken. They sever Richtofen's connection with the ether, but he maintains control over the zombies. Once Maxis controls the ether in 2035, he returns to the moon and plucks Samantha from Richtofen's body to join him in Argartha. October 13th, 2025, a nuclear bomb explodes outside of Nuketown as a result of Broken Arrow's drilling. CIA and CDC operative arrive to find an undead outbreak already in process. One of the missiles from the moon hits Nuketown, killing all on sight except for Marlton Johnson, who survives by hiding in a nuclear bunker. October 13th, 2025, the Earth's fracturing triggers further temporal rifts, teleporting an 1800s American western town underneath a mining factory in Agana. Arthur is pulled through the rift from 1318, arriving in a now buried town. November 5th, 2025, Broken Arrow disbanded after the primary faculty is lost in the fire. This is later believed to be committed by the employees, destroying evidence implicating them in an outbreak. Rustman, his mind is broken for over 40 years of exposure to element 115. He begins to wander the Earth. March 18th, 2020. In a distress call, former CDC Assistant Director George Barkley reveals that the infectious containments have gone airborne. He advises caution regarding any allies showing signs of short-term memory loss, psychosis, delusion, and paranoia. March 27th, 1927. A society of survivors who eat the undead is formed. They are the Flesh. May 12th, 2027. Samuel J. Stullinger joins the Flesh. June 28th, 2027. Through the consumption of undead meat, the Flesh began to hear Richtofen's voice. He tries to persuade them to build a global polarization device for him in pursuit of his new plan, to mend the rift in space-time and acquire full control over the ether. June 28th, 2027. Maxis begins accumulating survivors on the Earth, telling those who are willing to listen to build global polarization device for him in his pursuit of a new plan to open Argartha and reunite him with Samantha, even though it will result in the destruction of the Earth. April 4th, 2028. The Flesh broadcasts their message across all frequency, tell the others to heed our call, and that the path to enlightenment can be achieved by consuming the undead. December 9th, 2028. Max's followers begin to construct a spire near the Hanford site facility. January 3rd, 2029. Max's followers begin to doubt him, believing that he may in fact be evil. They destroy their electronics. March 2nd, 2029. Max's followers attempt to speak with him again. Many have begun to hear Richtofen, and those loyal to Maxis eagerly await further instruction. August 5th, 1929. A broadcast is sent out confirming the fall of the Flesh and Max's followers, with each group hearing the voice of Richtofen or Maxis. The battle broke between them. As they fought, a zombies horde moved in and destroyed all who remained. Stullinger is one of the few who escaped. Richtofen and Maxis are left with no one to communicate near Greenrun. The first polarization device must be constructed. October 13th, 2035. Stullinger bumps into Rustman, who has stolen bus from an abandoned Broken Arrow facility. October 21st, 2035. Stullinger, Rustman run into Moralton and Abigail at a diner near the Hanford site facility. Maxis asks him to complete the polarization device in his favor. Stullinger, having consumed zombie meat, is in contact by Richtofen, who orders Stullinger to construct the device for him instead. The crew constructs the device for Maxis. The four would become known as Victus. October 22nd, 2035. Still hoping to regain control, Richtofen teleports Victus to Providence 22, where he demands that Stullinger activate the second polarization device once again. The crew sides with Maxis, and the voice ceases for some time, leaving Victus wandering the Earth. December 31st, 2035. Victus arrives at the old western town, now located underneath a mining facility in Agnola. They discover Arthur in a jail cell. He assists them on their journey. The voice of Maxis and Richtofen return. They activate the final polarization device in Maxis' favor. And now corrupted by the dark ether, he reveals his true intentions to Victus and punishes Richtofen by trapping his soul into a zombie. Drawing into Argartha by her father, Samantha witnesses the evil that has corrupted him. When the rift opens, happens in Dimension 63 in 1918. She reaches out to that timeline's Maxis for help. January 10th, 2063. Richtofen instructs the undead Richtofen to pursue Victus and recover their blood files. January 19th, 2036. Primus Richtofen begins to manipulate Stolinger, opening up a rift for Victus to begin their new journey. Pursued by undead Richtofen and the army of undead, Victus enters the rift. January 19th, 2036. Maxis destroys the Earth and all its surviving inhabitants.